Hi, and welcome back to the Million Dollar Events Podcast. This is the place for online content creators, coaches, and businesses to level up their in person events so they stand out, they become the it girl in their industry, and they just host better events. Hi, my name is Jamie. I've planned over 80 events since 2016, so I know a thing or two about hosting a really good conference and retreat. So, without further ado, grab your favorite water, tea, kombucha, a journal, and a pen, and we're going to dive into today's topic. Today, we're going to talk about insurance. A lot of coaches out there do not have insurance for their events, for their business, for their life. And let me just say that, that's so risky. I do not recommend walking around this planet giving services, especially in person, and not having insurance. That's insane to me. But if you're an online coach and you have a course or a mastermind, you might feel like you don't need insurance for your business. And maybe you don't. I'm not a lawyer and this is not legal advice. However, if you are hosting in-person events, you need to have insurance. So today I'm going to talk about a few different insurance types for your business, for your events, and for your life, essentially. Because if something goes wrong and you don't have insurance, it is your life. They're going to come and take everything away from you. Okay, so let's dive into today's topic. The first insurance I'm going to talk about is mostly for your business. I have this. A lot of other service providers have this. Now, maybe if you're an online coach, you might not have this. It's general liability insurance. And general liability insurance is basically an insurance policy that covers you and your company for claims involving bodily injuries and property damage resulting from your products, services, or operations. It also may cover if you are held liable for damages of your landlord's property. So the rental property that you have. Like if you were to rent a room in a hotel, rent a rental property. Anyway, this is just an overarching policy that really helps you protect your business from yourself and from your services in case something happens. This is an overarching policy that you might not need, like special event insurance, which we'll get to a little bit later, if you have this general liability policy, depending on the limits of what or how much it covers. This is really good in case someone falls, trips, hurts themselves at your retreat or at your conference. You will have special coverage to put a claim against your liability insurance because you have it during the event itself. If you host any kind of physical business, you still need this every single day. If you do Reiki, if you do breath work, if you do any of that, you need general liability insurance. Period. But this is great to cover issues or damage to the property or bodily injury during your event. Now, I also recommend special event insurance, which we'll get into a little bit later. It is slightly different with higher coverage levels. Outside of that, the second type of insurance I recommend is errors and omissions insurance. This is another professional insurance. It's also known as professional liability insurance, and it's a type of business insurance that protects companies and their employees against claims of negligence or inadequate work that causes financial harm. So it covers things like negligence, errors or omissions in professional services, misrepresentation, inaccurate advice, violation of good faith and fair dealing. It also can cover costs associated with legal defense, including attorney fees and court costs, settlements and judgments, damages, disciplinary hearings, and regulatory agencies. Any service provider really needs errors and omissions insurance, especially if you're an online coach, because if maybe you don't CYA during your coaching services, this will protect you in case someone sues you. When it comes to hosting a retreat, someone might sue you for their retreat costs if they miss the flight, or if they want a refund and you won't refund them, or if you misrepresent the retreat itself. Like you say that it is all inclusive, but they might have to pay for lunches and dinners. And for whatever reason, they didn't open a document or they weren't sure, they weren't aware, and they want to bring retaliatory measures, financial measures against you for this experience. And this insurance will protect and help you pay for that litigation effort against your business. Essentially, insurance just protects your business against life. Errors and omissions insurance does not cover everything. It does not cover intentional wrongdoing like fraudulent or criminal acts. If you intentionally misrepresent what you're doing at a conference or a retreat, it doesn't matter. A little bait and switch action doesn't cover it. Errors and omissions does not cover bodily damage or property damage, bodily injury or property damage. That's where the general liability or the special event insurance comes into play. That they really work hand in hand based on what they cover. I have both of them for my business just because of what I do and the nature of what I do. It's both online and in person. And so it's really important to me to be protected because, my small business is just that. It's a small business. It is my life. It puts a roof over my head. And I would hate to have someone slip and fall by a pool or get stung, allergic, and has to be rushed to the hospital, and then they want to bring retaliatory measures against me and maybe my client and the property or whatever may happen. I know that I'm covered when it comes to my policies. The third type insurance for your event is event cancellation insurance. Now, the first two I go through Hiscox, but you can usually get those through a normal insurance company. Event cancellation insurance is not as readily available, and there's a lot more rules on it. Event cancellation insurance offers financial protection to the event organizers if an event is canceled, postponed, or relocated due to unforeseen circumstances beyond their control. This coverage can reimburse for losses like non-refundable deposits, lost revenue, and additional expenses incurred in the event of cancellation or postponement. So here's some losses that are covered or causes of losses that are covered. Natural disasters, which should also be covered in your force majeure clause of your contract. Venue issues, damage to the venue, failure of infrastructure or denial of access should also be a clause in your contract. Transportation problems, failure of public transport or issues with travel. Now, this is a little tricky because depending on the policy and the insurance, it may or may not cover delay of flights. So be sure to ask that question of your insurance provider or your prospective provider if you're shopping around, just so you know exactly what is covered there. Labor disputes, so strikes or labor issues that disrupt the event. So this could be labor strikes at an airport, labor strikes at a train station, labor strikes of the taxi system, anything like that that could impact you physically being able to arrive is actionable against this event cancellation, which also should be under force majeure clause of your event contract. Other unforeseen circumstances, any other unexpected cause not specifically excluded by the policy, but the key here is unforeseen. So if you're not selling your retreat and you have event cancellation insurance, just because you're not selling isn't an unforeseen circumstance. It might be to you because you might think that your retreat is pop off and everyone needs to be there. But just because someone's not buying doesn't make this an unforeseen circumstance. It does, however, reduce attendance due to covered reasons. So if there was a natural disaster, a venue issue, a transportation problem, and over 50% of your attendees can't make it to the event, then it would be covered because that is unforeseen. The fact that they didn't buy the first time. Okay. And then the last one is adverse weather. So some policies include rain insurance, but most of them offer a more broad coverage for adverse weather. So you need to be really clear and ask a lot of questions of your insurance provider before you lock in with them, just so you know what adverse weather includes. And it's also important to ask, does the adverse weather need to happen at the event location or from where you're coming from? So say that there's a hurricane in Tampa or Tampa Bay, but you're flying in from Colorado. Obviously, I would assume that event cancellation insurance, and your force majeure clause would allow for cancellation and relocation or postponement of that event because the hurricane is coming in through Tampa and you can't be having a conference in the middle of a hurricane. Now, I want you to clarify with your insurance provider is if there's a snowstorm in Colorado and you as the event host can't get a plane off the ground, is that covered by that insurance? So that is the tricky part. I always recommend traveler's insurance, but that doesn't cover the loss of deposits and maybe refunds of your clients and things like that when it comes to your event. It just comes for your travel expenses and not your event expenses. So it's really important to have this, especially within the USA. I haven't come across an insurance company that will insure international events. So this is more specifically to the domestic US. And then the fourth type of insurance is special event insurance. Now, this might sound a little redundant, but they tend to have a little bit higher limitations or coverages than just a general liability. A special event insurance is just that, it's special. Big or small, doesn't really matter. They cover events like anniversary celebrations, baby showers, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, celebrations, retirement parties. Special event insurance is insurance coverage for an event that generally involves vendors providing goods and services. Event insurance can help you cover a broad range of risks. Some of these risks include photographer not showing up, extreme weather, and postponement or cancellation of the event due to a covered loss. Now, this sounds very similar to event cancellation insurance. However, it doesn't necessarily equate to the same coverage. It covers event gifts, event photography and videography, lost deposits, special attire, special jewelry, sudden illness. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't really cover COVID. Special event insurance is what I think about, like, definitely for weddings, but also for your event, for your retreat. If someone is driving home from your event every night, so say that they're choosing not to stay at the hotel, and say that you are offering alcohol at the bar, whether they pay for it or not, it doesn't matter. It is offered to them during your networking reception, and then they drive home. And then they get in a car accident because they drank at your event. Now, granted, this sounds like they should be liable, and they are liable. However, they can come back and sue you and your business and the event for serving them alcohol. Anyway, it's a mess. So my suggestion is always look into this option and figure out if you need event cancellation insurance, special event insurance, or a combination of both. Always consult your current insurance company. And most insurance companies have some sort of version of this. Always check with them first. And also, if they tell you no, that does not mean it's a no for everyone, but you might have to do a little bit of shopping and a little bit of effort. Now, granted, all of this should go on your budget. All of your business expenses like this should go on your budget, only if it's directly correlated back to the retreat. Now, event cancellation insurance and special event insurance can definitely be correlated back to a moment in time of your event. Now, general liability and errors in our Omissions, I just consider that general overhead for my business because it's not specific to one of my events that I plan. If you go with event cancellation or special event insurance, when you are looking at insurances for your event, you're going to want to add plus or minus 3 days. And that's the general time frame that people would come in early or stay later after your event, usually, and if you're smart, you would do this too, during hotel negotiations, specifically hotel. You can ask for the group rate plus or minus 3 days and have it written into the concessions. And that gives them a special rate, especially if you're like in Orlando or New York or San Diego, somewhere people want to visit. They might want to come early or stay late to really enjoy the area. Since they're there already for business, they might as well make a little business-cation out of it and stay a little bit later. Now, if they're coming, if the primary reason they're coming to this hotel, coming to this area is for business, and they stay there using your group rate and your event as the primary reason for joining or being there, and something happens plus or minus 3 days, then you're still liable because they're there for you. So it's important when you're looking at event insurance to add a little time frame around the event just to make sure you're covered, because a couple $100 is a lot cheaper than a hospital visit, especially in the United States. I want to make a clear distinction between an event planner and what insurance they need and what like a business coach would need while planning an event. As an event planner, I have general liability insurance and errors and omissions insurance. I cannot take out event cancellation insurance or special event insurance on behalf of my clients' events. I'm not the one paying the deposits. I'm not the one putting up the money for the event in case of a cancellation. So I have no financial skin in the game for these insurances to be covered. So if you are a planner, I always suggest my clients take out travel insurance for their travels and then either special event insurance or event cancellation insurance for the event itself. I also tell them they should have general liability insurance and errors and omissions insurance. However, that covers their general business, not necessarily the event, and it's up to them and their choices of how they want to operate their business. As a host, your planner's general liability insurance and errors and omissions insurance does not cover your business in case of some sort of accident or event that happens that someone seeks financial compensation. So if your attendee falls and breaks their leg and has to go to the hospital, that attendee could sue you and the planner, and the planner's insurance does not cover your business. It covers their business in case of some sort of lawsuit. So it's important that you are covered and the event is covered when you're moving forward with either in-person retreats or conferences. It does not matter. It's not a matter of if it will happen, it's when it happens. And you want to make sure that you're informed and covered when it happens, because ignorance is not an excuse and does not hold up in a court of law when it comes to accidents or damage. Okay, and now the fifth type of insurance that I recommend, which I've already talked about a little bit, is travel insurance. This is especially for international travel, but you're going to want to have some sort of medical and or travel insurance. Most travel insurances, especially Cancel Flex or Cancel for Any Reason, gives you medical coverage in foreign countries up to a certain amount. They will give you reimbursement. If your plane is delayed, they will pay you for your time that you're delayed. They could reimburse your ticket price for that traveler that can't make it. Every single attendee should have some sort of travel insurance, a requirement of the retreat itself. Therefore, if something were to happen to them and say you can't claim cancellation or postponement because there's not enough reduction in attendance due to a natural disaster, they can still be made whole through their insurance if they are unable to join or if part of their retreat is disrupted, and you shouldn't necessarily reimburse because all of these things like the food and the rooms and the activities have already been paid for. So this gives them recourse, a financial recourse, to recoup some of the funds that they weren't able to enjoy for the retreat itself. Also, if their bags get lost, travel insurance covers up to a certain amount for them to replace, go get a couple of outfits, go get, face cream and Aveda hair care and whatever it might be. They're able to go and still enjoy the trip and still enjoy themselves while they're waiting for their bags to arrive. This has been a summation of 5 key insurances that I recommend you have for your retreat or conference. Let me know which ones kind of shocked you, because when I first got into this business, I was like, I have to do what and how many? That's crazy. Let me know in the comments below. As always, please subscribe and like to get notified every time a new video drops. I'll see you on the next one.